What if the quiet man behind New York's brick walls built more than buildings? What if he built the most controversial empire in modern America? Today, we uncover the secret billionaire life of Fred Trump, the man who shaped Donald Trump's fortune and mindset. But stay till the end, because the most shocking twist isn't about Fred. It's about what his legacy has become through Donald, Melania, and Ivanka. Fred Trump, the builder behind the empire. Before gold-plated penthouses and presidential motorcades, there was Fred Trump, the real architect of the Trump empire. While his son Donald would one day dominate headlines and skyscrapers, Fred quietly laid the billion-dollar groundwork, brick by brick. Born to German immigrants, Fred built his first home in Queens at just 22. But this wasn't just a side hustle, it was a blueprint for generational wealth. By leveraging FHA loans during the Great Depression, Fred made the US government his primary investor. He would build housing for working-class families and get paid twice, once to construct it and again to collect rent. It was legal, it was brilliant, and it was the foundation of a real estate portfolio that, at its peak, spanned over 27,000 units. By the 2012s 960s, Fred's assets were valued at over $300 million, and that's without social media, skyscrapers, or reality TV. In today's terms, that wealth translates to more than $2.5 billion. His developments weren't flashy, but they were efficient, earning him the nickname the Henry Ford of housing. Entire neighborhoods in Brooklyn and Queens were silently bankrolled by the Trump name. But perhaps Fred's most valuable project wasn't made of brick and concrete. It was Donald Trump himself. While publicly downplaying his support, Fred funneled over $60 million to his son through loans, shell companies, and hidden trusts. That infamous small loan of $1 million? Just a footnote in a far more intricate web. Without Fred's signature, deals like Trump Tower, now worth around $400 million, would have never seen daylight. And Fred wasn't just wealthy, he was strategic. He understood how to move within the system, quietly influencing local politics, nudging zoning laws, and cultivating connections with agencies like the Department of Housing and Urban Development. When investigators later uncovered that he had purchased $3.5 million worth of casino chips to bail out Donald's failing Atlantic City venture, it wasn't viewed as a bailout, it was viewed as a father protecting his greatest investment. Fred Trump didn't crave headlines, he built legacies. He wasn't gilded like his son, but his fingerprints are all over the fortune, the fame, and the mythology of the Trump name. Which part of Fred's empire-building playbook surprised you the most? Was it the government-funded apartments or the secret cash flow to Trump Tower? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we read them all. A quiet billionaire's life full of secrets. Fred Trump never needed to shout his wealth to the world. While his son would one day brand skyscrapers with the family name, Fred was building an empire made of bricks, loopholes, and silence. Nestled within the quiet luxury of Jamaica estates, his colonial mansion, now worth over $4 million, stood as a monument not to extravagance, but to control. He wasn't flashy, he was methodical. By the 1980s, Fred's portfolio spanned thousands of apartments across Brooklyn and Queens, most of them modest, many of them subsidized. But the math told a different story. With rental income streaming in, often backed by government checks, his net worth swelled beyond $250 million. He understood that real wealth doesn't scream, it compounds. It hides in 60-year mortgages and tax breaks buried deep in city code. His name was rarely in headlines, but his fingerprints were all over New York real estate. Yet power, even the quiet kind, rarely comes without shadows. In 1973, Fred Trump was sued by the Department of Justice for racial discrimination, accused of systematically denying housing to black applicants. It was a rare moment when the curtain lifted, revealing a man who operated behind layers of corporate shells and carefully worded leases. He denied wrongdoing, of course, but the case stained the Trump name long before Donald entered politics. And when Fred died in 1999, silence gave way to spectacle. A battle erupted within the Trump dynasty. Nieces and nephews came forward, alleging manipulation of wills and secret trusts designed to keep them out. The man who built everything so methodically had left behind a trail of legal traps and bitter resentment. His estate, reportedly valued at over $200 million, became a battlefield proof that even a quiet fortune can trigger very loud consequences. Fred's story isn't just about money, it's about how silence, secrecy, and strategy can be more powerful than any spotlight, about how some legacies are crafted not in gold, but in signatures, property deeds, and power plays made behind mahogany doors. The kind of wealth that never needed to be posted, because it had already bought the silence of an entire city block. Donald Trump, the apprentice of empire. Before he was a president, before the skyscrapers and scandals, Donald Trump was simply the son of a man who built quiet empires. But Donald was never content with quiet. From the beginning, he craved something louder, something shinier, something branded. On paper, it looked like a humble beginning, a small loan of $1 million from his father, Fred. But behind that phrase was a pipeline of wealth, trust accounts and invisible lifelines that would later be revealed to total over $400 million in disguised gifts. Donald didn't inherit an empire. He took one, then gave it his name. His first move was bold. He saw potential not in buildings, but in perception. The Grand Hyatt Hotel on 42nd Street, a crumbling wreck of a commodity, became his proving ground. With audacity, negotiation, and access to government tax abatements, he transformed it into a glistening monument. Proof that Trump wasn't just a name, it was leverage. What followed was more than business, it was performance. Tower by tower, casino by casino, Trump's empire rose across skylines, from Manhattan to Las Vegas, with golden letters that didn't whisper success, they shouted it. From Trump Tower's marble atrium to Trump International's five-star suites, he manufactured a version of wealth that was aspirational and intimidating. The name itself became a product. But leverage, by design, is fragile. Beneath the gold-plated surfaces were loans, lawsuits, and losses. In the 1990s, his empire nearly crumbled under the weight of over $900 million in debt. He didn't collapse, he rebranded. He turned bankruptcy into bravado, loss into law. And by the 2000s, his second act had begun, not as a developer, but as a persona. The Apprentice wasn't just a reality show, it was an alchemy machine. Week by week, Trump sold America a new image of success, one where "you're fired" was a badge of power, and the penthouse was always within reach. NBC made millions. So did he. Then came the White House, perhaps the ultimate branding platform. The businessman became president, and when he left office, he didn't disappear. He multiplied. Speaking fees, book deals, NFTs, and even Truth Social, each a new branch on the Trump business tree, each carrying a price tag, a headline, a following. Donald Trump didn't just inherit wealth, he weaponized it, televised it, politicized it, and in doing so, turned the Trump name into something far bigger than real estate. He turned it into an ideology, Trump's crypto goldmine and digital comeback. While most former presidents fade into memoirs and speaking tours, Donald Trump took a detour, straight into crypto wallets and digital war zones. No longer confined to boardrooms or ballots, Trump has found a new frontier where he doesn't just play the game, he monetizes it. In just 6 months, Trump pulled in over $57 million, not from real estate or campaign funds, but from NFTs. Yes, pixelated collectibles bearing his likeness in superhero suits, cowboy hats, and golden armor. Critics scoffed, supporters clicked, and the blockchain laughed all the way to the bank. Trump's digital trading cards sold out in hours, proving what many had forgotten. He's still one of the most bankable names in America. But this wasn't just about gimmicks. Behind the NFTs lies something far more calculated. Truth Social, a social media platform built as a middle finger to Silicon Valley. Truth Social isn't just a branding exercise. It's an information fortress, a data mine, and a direct pipeline to his most loyal base. Trump may no longer tweet, but he's still broadcasting. On his terms, in his tone, with no algorithmic interference. Forbes recently revised their estimate of Trump's total net worth to over $7 billion, with a significant chunk tied to Trump Media and Technology Group. He didn't just step back into the spotlight, he monetized the darkness between platforms, weaponizing digital real estate the same way he once flipped Manhattan towers. It's a playbook few could execute. Combine controversy with commerce, outrage with ownership. The MAGA movement isn't just political, it's profitable. From red caps to blockchain, every touchpoint becomes an asset, every headline a sales pitch. And let's not forget, while others launch coins, Trump launches empires. While others beg for likes, he builds platforms. His crypto comeback isn't just about tech, it's about control. Control of narrative, of brand, of audience. Packaged and sold, one download or NFT at a time. So, whether you think he's a visionary or a provocateur, one thing is undeniable: Trump's digital resurrection is making him richer, louder, and more algorithm-proof than ever. Which part of Trump's comeback shocked you the most? His NFT millions? Truth Social's valuation? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to keep exploring the world where politics meets profit, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Bonds, not bombs, the cities Trump secretly funds. He calls them war zones, cities overrun, lawless, unlivable. Chicago, New York, San Francisco. On stage, Donald Trump paints them as cautionary tales, but behind closed doors, he bets on them. In what some call hypocrisy, and others call genius, Trump has quietly amassed hundreds of millions of dollars in municipal bonds tied directly to the very cities he criticizes. While headlines scream dysfunction, Trump's portfolio whispers confidence. Because in the world of high finance, trash talk is just noise. Returns are the real gospel. These aren't speculative tech stocks or crypto swings, they're tax-exempt bonds backed by property taxes, infrastructure projects, and public service revenue. Chicago Board of Education bonds? Likely in his books. New York water infrastructure bonds? Equally possible. Trump may bash urban decay by day, but by night, he's making compound interest off their survival. It's the ultimate paradox, funding the very institutions he publicly mocks. A kind of financial jiu-jitsu. Criticize the system to rile the base, but invest in its resilience to grow the bottom line. And here's the kicker. Municipal bonds are often low risk, high stability. For someone like Trump, they're not just income, they're insurance policies on America's chaos. And unlike real estate, bonds are quiet. They don't bear his name in gold, don't require ribbon cuttings or red carpets, but they pay like clockwork, often with rates between 4% and 6%, and when multiplied by a base of $250 million, 0 cents or more, they generate millions in passive income each year, tax-free. This strategy isn't new, but it is revealing. For a man obsessed with control, what better power play than quietly funding the cities he claims are falling apart? The message is simple. He doesn't need to believe in them. He just needs them to stay alive long enough to pay him. Some call it opportunism, others call it hedging. Trump calls it business. So the next time he takes the stage and slams Democrat-run disaster zones, listen closely. It might not be a warning, it might be a pitch to his own portfolio. And if those cities ever fall, don't worry, his money got out long before you ever knew it was there. Melania, the silent queen of luxury. She speaks rarely, but when she does, the world leans in. Melania Trump, once draped in Dior and Versace, now commands attention with a single glance. An enigma cloaked in silk, heels, and curated silence. While political commentators debate policies and podiums, Melania plays a longer game. One without words, but with perfectly timed appearances. She doesn't hustle for the spotlight, she lets the spotlight chase her. And in that silence, she has built a brand far more potent than most of her husband's loudest rallies. Her modeling days weren't just a career, they were a blueprint. Walking for Versace, posing in editorial campaigns, and mastering the art of controlled elegance, Melania understood image before Instagram even existed. By the time she stepped into the White House, she didn't have to prove anything, she just had to show up. But beneath that porcelain calm lies a business acumen sharper than diamonds. Quietly, she negotiated a $40 million 0 cents deal for a documentary chronicling her transition from runway to First Lady. The platform? Amazon. Not a boutique indie, but the juggernaut of digital streaming. And that wasn't just a paycheck. It was legacy engineering. Even her fashion choices speak in code. A $51,500 zero-cent Dolce & Gabbana jacket during a G7 summit. A Hermes Birkin in crocodile leather worth over $100,000 zero cents. Not flaunted, simply carried. Each piece whispers affluence with surgical precision, turning every tabloid photo into a luxury ad. But perhaps her greatest asset is mystery. While others chase virality with tweets and TikToks, Melania thrives in ambiguity. She's not trying to be understood, she's choosing to be observed. That restraint makes her unpredictable. And in a world of noise, unpredictability is gold. She doesn't need to sell products, she is the product. A modern Mona Lisa, poised, unreadable, and infinitely valuable. So while others scream their narratives, Melania continues to write hers in silent italics. Every move calculated, every absence intentional, and every reappearance a masterclass in quiet power. Because in the end, luxury doesn't shout. It waits to be noticed. And Melania Trump has never waited long. Ivanka, the heiress rebranding Trump, she was never just the daughter. Ivanka Trump was the prototype, the elegant, polished, media-engineered heiress America was told to admire, a fashion entrepreneur, a senior White House advisor, and now, in 2025, a quiet disruptor in the billion-dollar climate tech game. Ivanka has always mastered transformation, not through chaos but through choreography. When the Trump brand was loud, she was deliberate. While Donald swung headlines like wrecking balls, she moved like silk behind glass. Every hair, every heel, every camera angle, controlled, curated, almost too perfect. She walked away from her fashion empire in 2018, but don't mistake that for retreat. That brand, once available at Nordstrom, Bloomingdale's and Amazon, moved over $100 million, zero cents in product, before political backlash led her to shut it down. But the exit wasn't a failure. It was a pivot, a redirection into something even more potent. Power without a price tag. Now she's back, but this time, not with stilettos and structured handbags. In 2025, Ivanka quietly stepped into the sustainability space with a startup combating food waste, rumored to be valued north of $80 million, zero cents, after just one funding round. It's not just a company. It's a rebranding exercise wrapped in green ethics, Silicon Valley buzzwords, and press photos full of linen blazers and reclaimed wood offices. But even this new chapter draws raised eyebrows. Is this genuine impact or a PR cleanse? The woman, once known for champagne towers and crystal-covered heels, now speaks on carbon credits and food equity. Some call it evolution, others call it calculated. Yet Ivanka doesn't flinch. She never has. Her power isn't just inherited, it's maintained, edited, and reintroduced with terrifying finesse. From Mar-a-Lago brunches in Oscar de la Renta to tech panels in Palo Alto, she understands one truth: perception is capital. And in the end, she might be the most bankable Trump of them all. Not because she shouts it, but because she knows when to whisper. Which version of Ivanka do you believe in? The icon, the operator, or the illusion? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's hear your take on the most refined player in the Trump dynasty. Trump family legacy, empire, or illusion? From bricks and mortar to digital tokens and billion-view headlines, the Trump family legacy reads like a screenplay too grand for Hollywood. It began humbly with Fred Trump's real estate empire in Queens, modest by today's standards, but the foundation of a name that would later be etched into Manhattan towers and global headlines. Then came Donald Trump, who took that concrete legacy and turned it into a brand. One plastered on everything from steaks to skyscrapers, casinos to presidential podiums. With gold-trimmed boardrooms and planes estimated at over $100 million, zero cents, he didn't just build an empire, he built a mythology. Into the next generation, Ivanka, the poised heiress turned entrepreneur. Melania, the enigmatic first lady who now commands multi-million-dollar fashion and jewelry ventures with silent precision. Together they rebranded the family name into a lifestyle, luxurious, curated and constantly photographed. From Mar-a-Lago soirees to Davos summits, the Trumps moved through global society as both icons and enigmas. But behind the glittering facade lies a storm of lawsuits, indictments and family fractures. Eric and Don Jr. embroiled in business investigations, Ivanka stepping back from the spotlight, and Donald still shaping headlines, both as a former president and a billionaire under siege. The empire isn't crumbling, but it is cracking. Is this the price of power, or the blueprint for American royalty in the digital age? Because when your last name is Trump, your life isn't just lived, it's monetized, magnified, and mythologized. So we ask you, do you see a dynasty that will endure for generations, or a castle built on gold-plated sand? Drop your thoughts below. The truth may lie somewhere between brand and bluff. From real estate roots in Brooklyn to billion-dollar NFT drops and luxury power plays on the world stage, the Trump family's rise is anything but ordinary. Fred laid the bricks, Donald turned them into gold, and now the empire echoes through media, politics, and scandal. So, what do you think is the most surprising part of this family's wealth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're fascinated by power, money, and untold billionaire stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell. There's a lot more where this came from.